In the first place, it's not so easy to find your vagina. I mean, women go weeks, months, sometimes even years without looking at it. A high-powered businesswoman was interviewed and she said she didn't have the time. She was too busy. Looking at your vagina, she said, is a full day's work. You have to get there on your back, in front of a mirror that is standing on its own, full length preferred. You have to get in the perfect position with a perfect light, which then is somehow shadowed by the mirror and the angle you're at. You get all twisted. You know, you're arching your head up. You're killing your back. You're exhausted by then. She said she didn't have the time for that. She was busy.
So there were vagina interviews, which became the Vagina Monologues. Over 200 women were interviewed. There were older women, younger women, married women, lesbians, single women, college professors, actors, corporate professionals, sex workers, African American women, Asian American women, Hispanic women, Native American women, Caucasian women, Jewish women. Okay. At first, women were reluctant to talk. They were a bit shy, but once you got them going, there was no stopping them. Women secretly love to talk about their vaginas. They get excited, mostly because no one's ever asked them before.
Let's just start with the word vagina. It sounds like an infection at best. Maybe a medical instrument. Hurry, nurse, bring me the vagina. 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 It doesn't matter how many times you say it, it never sounds like a word that you want to say. It's a totally ridiculous, completely unsexy word. If you use it during sex, trying to be politically correct. Darling, could you stroke my vagina? You kill the act right there.
We were worried about vaginas, what we call them and don't call them.
In Great Neck, New York, they call it a pussycat. A woman there said her mother told her, "Don't wear panties under your pajamas, dear. You need to air out your pussycat."
In Westchester, they call it a pookie.
In New Jersey, a twat.
There's a powder box, a poopy, a poochie, a peepee, a poopaloo, a punani, a pal, and a peesh.
Toady, Dee-dee, Nishi, Dignity, Monkey Box.
Coochie snurcher, cooter, lovey.
Gladys Siegelman.
VA, wee-wee, horsepot, nappy dugout, vag.
Mungo, mookie, pajama, fanny boo, marshmallow, the vajayjay.
There's a ghoulie, possible, tomale, totita, Connie.
A Mimi in Miami.
A split knish in Philadelphia.
A schmendy in the Bronx, and a chomchi in Busan.
We're worried about vaginas.
Story, and some are based on several women's stories surrounding the same theme. Sometimes a good idea became an outrageous one. This particular monologue is based on one woman's story, although the subject came up in every interview and was often fraught. The subject being hair.
You cannot love a vagina unless you love hair. Many people do not love hair. My first and only husband hated hair. He said it was cluttered and dirty. He made me shave my vagina. It looked puffy and exposed and like a little girl. This excited him. When he made love to me, my vagina felt the way a beard must feel. It felt good to rub it and painful. Like scratching a mosquito bite. It felt like it was on fire. There were these screaming red bumps. I refused to shave it again. Then my husband had an affair. When we went to marital therapy, He said he screwed around because I wouldn't please him sexually. I wouldn't shave my vagina. The therapist spoke in a German accent and gasped between sentences to show her empathy. She asked me why I didn't want to please my husband. I said, I thought it was weird. I felt little when my hair was gone down there, and I couldn't help speaking in a baby voice. And the skin got irritated, and even calamine lotion wouldn't help it. She said that marriage was a compromise. I asked her if shaving my vagina would stop him from screwing around. I asked if she had many cases like this before. She said that questions diluted the process. I needed to jump in. She was sure it was a good beginning. This time, when we got home, he got to shave my vagina. It was like a therapy bonus prize. He clipped it a few times, and there was some blood in the bathtub, but he didn't even notice it because he was so happy shaving me. Then later, when he was pressed against me, I could feel his spiky sharpness sticking into me, my naked puppy vagina. There was no protection. There was no fluff. I realized then that hair is there for a reason. It's the leaf around the flower. It's the lawn around the house. You must love hair in order to love a vagina. You can't pick the parts you want. And besides, my husband never stops screwing around.
If your vagina got dressed, what would it wear?
Glasses, a beret, and a leather jacket.
Mink. Silk stockings.
Jeans. Something fun fitting.
Emeralds. An evening gown. Sequins.
Armani only.
A tutu. And black see-through underwear.
Something machine washable. Costume and mask. Purple pajamas.
Angora. A red bow.
Cashmere and pearls.
A leopard hat.
A silk kimono.
Sweatpants. A tattoo. And an electrical shocking device to keep unwanted strangers away.
High heels. Lace. Combat boots.
Purple feathers, twigs, shells.
A pinafore.
A slicker and a bikini.
If your vagina could talk, what would it say? 2 words.
Slow down.
Is that you?
Feed me.
I want.
Yum, yum.
Oh, yeah.
Start again.
No, over there.
Lick me. Just stay home.
Brave choice.
Think again.
More, please.
Embrace me.
Let's play.
Don't stop! More! More!
Not yet.
Whoa, mama.
Yes. Yes.
Rock me. Enter at your own risk.
Oh!
God.
Thank God.
I'm here. Let's go.
Let's go.
Find me!
Thank you.
Bonjour. Too hard.
No. Don't give up.
Where's Brian? That's better?
Yes. There. There.
Were interviewed, and these were the most poignant. Maybe because many of them had never had vagina interviews before. One woman, who was 72, had never even seen her vagina. She watched herself in the shower and the bath, but never with conscious intent. She had never had an orgasm. At 72, she went into therapy, as they do in New York, and with the help of her therapist, she went home one afternoon, took a bath, lit some candles, put on some music, and she got down with herself. She said it took her over an hour because she was arthritic, but when she finally found when she finally found her clitoris, she said she cried. This monologue is for her.
Down there? I haven't been down there since 1953. No, it had nothing to do with Eisenhower. No. It's the cellar down there. Very damp, clammy. You don't want to go down there. Trust me. You get sick? Suffocating, very nauseating. The smell of the clamminess and the mildew and everything. Ugh! Smells unbearable. Gets in your clothes. No, there was no accident down there. It didn't blow up or catch on fire or anything. It wasn't so dramatic. I mean, never mind. No, never mind. I can't talk to you about this. What's a smart girl like you going around talking to old ladies about their down theirs for? We didn't do this kind of a thing when I was a girl. What? Jesus. Okay. There was this boy, Andy Lefkoff. Oh, he was cute. Well, I thought so. And tall like me, and I really liked him. He asked me out for a date in his car. I can't talk about this. I can't do this. Talk about down there. You just know it's there, like the cellar. There's rumbles down there sometimes. You can hear the pipes. Things get caught in there, little animals. It gets wet. People have to come and plug up the leaks. Otherwise, the door stays closed. You forget about it. It's a part of the house, but you don't see it or think about it. It has to be there, though, because every house needs a cellar. Otherwise, the bedroom would be in the basement. Oh, Andy. Andy Lefkoff. Right. Andy was very good looking. He was a catch. That's what we called it in my day. We were in his car, a new white Chevy Bel Air. I remember thinking my legs were too long for the seat. I have long legs. They were smushed up against the dashboard. When Andy just leaned in and kissed me in this surprisingly take me by control like they do in the movies kind of way. And I got excited. So excited. And, well, there was a flood down there. I couldn't control it. It was like this force of passion, this river of life just flooded out of me, right through my panties, right onto the car seat of his new white Chevy Bel Air. It wasn't pee, and it was smelly. Well, I didn't smell anything. But Andy said that it smelled like sour milk and I was staying in his car seat. I was a stinky, weird girl, he said. I wanted to explain that his kiss had caught me off guard. I wasn't normally like this. I tried to wipe the flood up with my dress. It was a new yellow primrose dress, and it looked so ugly with the flood on it. Andy drove me home without saying another word, and when I got out and closed the door, I closed the whole store, locked it, never opened for business again. I dated some after that, but the idea of the flood made me too nervous. I never even got close again. I used to have dreams, crazy dreams. Oh, they're dopey. Why? Burt Reynolds. I don't know why. He never did much for me in life, but in my dreams, it was always Burt and I, Burt and I, Burt and I. It was always the same general dream. We'd be out, Burt and I. And it was some restaurant, like the kind you see in Atlantic City, all big with the chandeliers and thousands of waiters with the vests. And Burt would give me this orchid corsage. I'd pin it on my blazer. We'd laugh. We were always laughing, Burt and I. Laughing, laughing, laughing. We'd eat shrimp cocktail. Huge shrimp. Fabulous shrimp. We'd laugh more. We were very happy together. Then Burt would look into my eyes and pull me to him in the middle of the restaurant. And just as he was about to kiss me, the whole restaurant would start to shake. Pigeons would fly out from under the table. I don't know what those pigeons were doing there. And the flood would come straight from down there. It would pour out of me. It would pour and pour. There would be fish inside it and little boats, and the whole restaurant would fill with my flood, and there would be Burt standing waist deep in it, looking horribly disappointed in me that I had done it again, horrified as we watched our friends, Dean Martin and the like, swim past us in their tuxedos and evening gowns. I don't have those dreams anymore. Not since they took away just about everything connected with down there. Moved out the uterus, the tubes, the whole works. My doctor thought he was being funny. If you don't use it, you'll lose it, he said. Really, I found out it was cancer. Everything around it had to go. Who needs it anyway? Highly overrated. I've done other things. I love the dog shows. I sell antiques. What would it wear? What kind of a question is that? What would it wear? It would wear a sign. Clothes due to flooding. What would it say? No. I told you, it's not like that. It's not like a person who speaks. It stopped being a thing that talked a long time ago. It's a place you don't go. It's locked up, it's under the house, it's down there. You happy now? You got it out of me. You got an old lady to talk about it down there. You feel better now? You know, actually, you're the first person I ever told about this. I feel a little better.
The shell, a round, pink, tender shell, opening and closing, closing and opening. My vagina is a flower, an eccentric tulip, the center acute and deep, the scent delicate, the petals gentle, but sturdy. I did not always know this. I learned this in the Vagina workshop. I learned this from the woman who runs the Vagina workshop, a woman who believes in vaginas, who really sees vaginas, who helps other women see their vaginas by seeing other women's vaginas. In our first session, the woman who runs the Vagina workshop asked us to draw a picture of our own unique, beautiful, fabulous vagina. That's what she called it. She wanted to know what our own unique, beautiful, fabulous vaginas looked like to us. One woman who was pregnant drew a big red mouth, screaming with coins spilling out of it. Another very skinny woman drew a big serving plate with a kind of Devonshire pattern on it. I drew a huge black dot with little squiggly lines around it. The black dot was equal to a black hole in space, and the squiggly lines were meant to be people or particles or just your basic objects that got lost there. I had always thought of my vagina as a sort of anatomical vacuum, randomly sucking up things and objects from the surrounding environment. I did not think of my vagina in practical or biological terms. I did not, for example, see it as something that was attached to me. In the workshop, we were asked to look at our vaginas using hand mirrors. We were to carefully examine them and verbally report back to the group on what we saw. I must admit that up until this point, everything I knew about my vagina was based on hearsay or invention. I had never really seen the thing. It had never occurred to me to look at it. It felt so reductive and awkward, looking at it the way we were in the workshop with our hand mirrors. I felt the way the early astronomers must have felt with their primitive telescopes. I found it quite unsettling at first, my vagina. Like the first time you see a fish cut open, and you discover this whole other bloody, complex world right under the skin. It was so raw, so red, so fresh. And the thing that surprised me most was all the layers. Layers inside layers, opening into more layers. My vagina amazed me. I couldn't speak when it came my turn in the workshop. I was speechless. I had awoken to what the woman who ran the workshop called vaginal wonder. I just wanted to lay there on my mat looking at my vagina forever. Then, the woman who ran the workshop asked how many women had had orgasms. 2 women tentatively raised their hands. I did not raise my hand, but I had orgasms. I didn't raise my hand because they were accidental orgasms. They happened to me. They'd happened in my dreams, and I would wake in splendor. They happened a lot in water, mostly in the bath, once in Cape Cod. They happened on horses, on bicycles, sometimes on the treadmill at the gym. I did not raise my hand because although I had orgasms, I did not know how to make one happen. I thought it was a magical, mystical thing. I didn't want to interfere. It felt wrong getting involved, contrived, manipulative. It felt Hollywood. The surprise would be gone, and the mystery. The problem, of course, was that the surprise had been gone for 2 years. I hadn't had a magical, accidental orgasm in a long time, and I was frantic. That's why I was in the Vagina workshop. Then, the moment had arrived that I both dreaded and longed for. The woman who ran the workshop asked us to take out our hand mirrors again and see if we could locate our clitoris. We were there, the group of us women, on our backs, on our mats. And I don't know why, but I started crying. Maybe it was sheer embarrassment. Maybe it was knowing that I would have to give up the fantasy, the enormous, life-consuming fantasy that someone or something was coming to lead my life, to choose direction, to give me orgasms. I could feel the panic coming, the simultaneous terror and realization that I had avoided finding my clitoris, had written it off as mainstream and consumerist because I was in fact terrified that I did not have a clitoris, terrified that I was one of those constitutionally incapables, one of those frigid, dead, dry, shut down, apricot tasting bitter. Oh my God. I lay there on my back, reaching with my fingers, and all I could think about was the time when I was 10 years old and I lost my gold ring with the emeralds in the lake. How I kept diving over and over again to the bottom of the lake, running my fingers over stones and fish and bottle caps and slimy things, but never my ring. The panic I felt. I knew I'd be punished. The woman who ran the workshop saw my insane scrambling, sweating, and heavy breathing. She came over. I told her, "It's gone! It's gone! I lost my clitoris! I shouldn't have worn it swimming!" The woman laughed. She calmly stroked my forehead. She told me my clitoris was not something I could lose. It was me, she said, the essence of me. It was both the doorbell to my house and the house itself. I didn't have to find my clitoris. I had to be it. Be it. Be my clitoris. Be my clitoris. I lay back and closed my eyes. I put the mirror down. I watched myself floating above myself. I watched as I slowly began to approach myself and re-enter. I felt like an astronaut re-entering the surface of the earth. It was very quiet, this re-entry, quiet and gentle. I bounced and landed and bounced. I came into my own muscles and blood and cells, and then I slid into my vagina. It was suddenly easy, and I fit. I was all warm and ready and young and pulsing and alive. And then, without looking, with my eyes still closed, I put my finger on what had suddenly become me. There was a little quivering at first, which urged me to stay. Then the quivering became a quake, an eruption, the layers dividing and subdividing. The quaking broke open onto an ancient horizon of light and silence, which opened onto a plane of colors and music and innocence and longing, and I felt connection, calling connection, as I lay there, thrashing about on my little blue mat. My vagina is a shell, a tulip, and a destiny. I am arriving as I am beginning to leave. My vagina. My vagina. Me.
From Woman, an Intimate Geography by Natalie M. J. The clitoris is pure in its purpose. It is the only organ in the body designed simply for pleasure. It's simply a bundle of nerves. 8,000 nerve fibers to be precise. That's a higher concentration of nerve fibers than is found anywhere else in the male or female body, including the fingertips, the lips, or the tongue. And it is twice the number found in the penis. Who needs a handgun when you've got a semi-automatic?
This is how I came to love my vagina. It's embarrassing because it's not politically correct. I mean, I know it should have happened in a bath with salt grains from the Dead Sea. Enya playing. Me loving my woman self. I know the story. Vaginas are beautiful. Our self-hatred is only the internalized oppression and hatred of the patriarchal culture. It isn't real. Pussies unite! I know all of it. Like if we'd have grown up in a culture where we were taught fat thighs were beautiful. We'd all be pounding down milkshakes and Krispy Kremes, lying on our backs, spending our days thigh expanding. But we didn't grow up in that culture. I hated my thighs, and I hated my vagina even more. I thought it was incredibly ugly. I was one of those women who had looked at it, and from that moment on, I wished I hadn't. It made me feel physically sick. I pitied anybody who had to go down there. In order to survive, I would pretend that there was something else between my legs. I pictured furniture. Cozy futons with light cotton comforters, little velvet settees, leopard rugs, or pretty things. Silk handkerchiefs, quilted pot holders, place settings. I get so accustomed to this, I lost all memory of even having a vagina. Whenever a man was inside me, I'd picture him inside a mink-lined muffler or a Chinese bowl. Then, I met Bob. Bob was the most ordinary man I'd ever met. He was tall, thin, nondescript, and he wore brown clothes. Bob didn't like spicy food or listen to Prince. He had no issues or problems. He wasn't even an alcoholic. He wasn't particularly funny or articulate or mysterious. He wasn't mean or self-involved. He wasn't charismatic. He didn't drive fast. In fact, I didn't particularly like Bob. I would have missed him altogether if he hadn't have handed me back the change that I dropped on the deli floor. As he picked up my quarters and pennies, his hand accidentally touched mine, and something happened. I went to bed with him. And that's when the miracle occurred. Turns out, Bob loves vaginas. He's a connoisseur. He loves the way they feel, the way they taste, the way they smell, but most importantly, he loves the way they look. He had to look at them. The first time we had sex, he told me he had to see me. I'm right here, Bob, I said. No, you, he said. I have to see you. Turn on the light, I said. Thinking he was some kind of a weirdo and freaking out in the dark. Bob turned on the light and then he said, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to see you. Right here. I'm right here. Then he began to undress me. What are you doing, Bob? I said. I need to see you, he said. No need. Let's just do it. I need to see what you look like. But you've seen a red leather couch before, I said. Bob continued. He wouldn't stop. I wanted to throw up and die. This is awfully intimate, I said. Can't we just have sex? No, he said. It's who you are. I need to see you. I held my breath. He looked and looked. He got all breathy and his face changed. He didn't look ordinary anymore. He looked like a hungry beast. "You're so beautiful," he said. "You're elegant and deep and innocent and wild." "You saw that there?" I said. It was like he'd read my palm. "I saw that," he said, "and more, much, much more." He stayed there looking for almost an hour, as if he was studying a map or observing the moon or staring into my eyes. But it was my vagina. In the light, I watched him, looking at me, and he was so genuinely excited, so peaceful and euphoric. I began to get wet and turned on. I began to see myself the way that Bob saw me. I began to feel beautiful and delicious, like a great painting or a waterfall. Bob wasn't afraid. He wasn't grossed out. I began to swell and feel proud. I began to love my vagina. And Bob lost himself there. And I was right there with him, in my vagina. And we were gone.
Report, female genital mutilation and cutting, a statistical exploration. Female genital mutilation has been practiced on approximately 130 million young girls and women. In the 28 countries where it is practiced, mostly in Africa, around 3 million young girls a year can expect the knife or a razor or a glass shard to cut their clitoris or remove it altogether. In a man, that would range from amputation of part of the penis to removal of all of the penis. Short-term results include tetanus, cuts in the urethra, bladder, and vaginal walls. Long-term, chronic uterine infection, increased agony and danger in childbirths, and early deaths.
Kidnapped as many as 50,000 to 200,000 young girls from surrounding countries and forced them into sexual slavery during World War II. Today, the surviving comfort women are between 70 and 90 years of age. As they are slowly dying off, their wish is for a formal apology from the Japanese government acknowledging what was done to them. Given the 21st century's escalating armed conflicts, the precedent of impunity for wartime sexual violence cannot be tolerated. The experience of the comfort women essentially set the stage for patterns of systematic rape and of sexual violence that continue today in places of armed conflict such as Sudan, such as Iraq, and the Congo. And thus, recognizing the human rights atrocities committed against women during World War II is paramount. In July 2007, V-Day witnessed a huge victory when our efforts, in conjunction with many others, resulted in the US House of Representatives passing a formal resolution calling for this apology from the Japanese government. This apology has yet to be granted.
우리의 이야기들은 우리의 머릿속에서만 존재한다.
Our stories only exist inside our heads,
유린당한 우리의 몸속에서만,
inside our ravaged bodies,
전쟁의 시간과 공간 안에서만, 그리고
inside the
텅 빈.
time and space of war and emptiness.
문서 자취도 없다.
There is no paper trail.
어떤 공식적인 기록도 없다.
Nothing official on the books.
오로지 양심뿐,
Only conscience.
오직 그것뿐.
Only this.
우리가 약속받았던 것들,
What we were promised.
내가 그들과 함께 가면 아버지를 살릴 수 있다.
That I would save my father if I went with them.
직업을 얻을 수 있다.
That I would find a job.
나라를 위해 일할 수도 있다.
That I would serve my country.
내가 가지 않으면 그들이 나를 죽일 거다.
That they would kill me if I didn't go.
거기가 더 좋을 거다.
That it was better there.
우리가 발견한 것들,
What we found.
산도 없었고,
No mountains.
나무도 없었고,
No trees.
물도 없었고,
No water.
황사,
Yellow sand.
사막,
A desert.
눈물 가득한 창고,
A warehouse full of girls.
수천 명의 걱정 많은 소녀들.
Thousands of worried girls.
내 따은 머리는 잘려나갔고
My braid cut against my will.
팬티를 입을 시간도 없었다.
No time to wear panties.
우리가 강제로 해야 했던 것들,
What we were forced to do.
이름을 바꿔야 했고,
Change our names.
단추가 쉽게 열리는 자루 같은 원피스를 입어야 했고,
Wear one-piece dresses with a button that opened easily.
하루에 50명의 일본 군인들이, 때로는 페루 군인들이 실려왔다.
50 Japanese soldiers a day. Sometimes there would be a ship of them.
이상스럽게 야만스러운 것들,
Strange, barbaric things.
피 흘릴 때도 하라.
Do it even when we bleed.
피 흘리기 전 어릴 때도 하라.
Do it young before we started bleeding.
그들은 너무 많았다.
There were so many.
너무 많은 남자들 받아서 나는 걸을 수조차 없었다.
Some wouldn't take off their pants, just took out their penis.
어떤 이들은 바지도 벗지 않았다. 그저 그들의 자질을 꺼낼 뿐이다.
So many men, I couldn't walk.
다리를 펼 수도 없었다.
I couldn't stretch my legs.
몸을 굽힐 수도 없었다.
I couldn't bend.
아무것도 할 수 없었다.
I couldn't.
그들이 우리에게 반복해서 한 일들,
What they did to us over and over.
욕하고,
Cursed,
때리고,
spanked,
뒤틀고,
twisted,
빈투성이가 되도록 속을 뒤집어 놓고,
tore the bloody inside out,
소독하고,
sterilized,
약을 주사,
drugged,
때리고,
slapped,
구멍을 내고.
punched.
우리가 본 것들,
What we saw.
욕실에서 화학약품을 마신 소녀,
A girl drinking chemicals in the bathroom.
폭탄에 맞아 죽은 소녀,
A girl killed by a bomb.
총으로 수도 없이 맞은 소녀,
A girl beaten with a rifle over and over.
벽에 머리를 박은 소녀,
A girl running headfirst into a wall.
강물에 던져진 영양실조 걸린 소녀의 몸,
A girl's malnourished body dumped into the river to drown.
우리에게 허락되지 않은 것들,
What we weren't allowed to do.
몸을 씻는 것,
Wash ourselves.
돌아다니는 것,
Move around.
의사에게 진찰을 받는 것,
Go to the doctor.
콘돔을 쓰는 것,
Use a condom.
도망치는 것,
Run away.
아기를 지키는 것,
Keep my baby.
하지 말라고 말하는 것.
Ask him to stop.
우리가 얻은 것들,
What we caught.
말라리아,
Malaria.
매도,
Syphilis.
임질,
Gonorrhea.
사산,
Stillbirth.
혈액,
Tuberculosis.
심장병,
Heart disease.
정신발작,
Nervous breakdown.
우울증.
Hypochondria.
우리가 먹은 것들,
What we were fed.
밥,
Rice.
된장국,
Miso soup.
무절임,
Turnip pickle.
밥,
Rice.
된장국,
Miso soup.
무절임,
Turnip pickle.
밥,
Rice.
밥,
Rice.
밥.
Rice.
우리가 된 것들,
What we became.
파괴되고,
Ruined.
도구가 되고,
Tools.
불임이 되고,
Infertile.
구멍이 되고,
Holes.
피범벅이 되고,
Bloody.
고깃덩어리가 되고, 추방되고,
Exiled.
침묵당하고,
Silenced.
홀로 되는 것.
Alone.
우리에게 남은 것들,
What we were left with.
아무것도.
Nothing.
결코 회복되지 못할 충격을 받고 죽은 아버지,
A shocked father who never recovered and died.
무임금,
No wages.
상처들,
Scars.
남자에 대한 침해,
Hatred of men.
자식도 없고,
No children.
집도 없고,
No house.
수지정뱅이가 되고,
A space where a uterus once was.
한때 자궁이었던 것은 텅 비었고,
Booze.
담배를
Smoking.
피우고,
Guilt.
죄의식과
Shame.
수치심만. 우리에게 붙여진 이름들,
What they called us.
위안부,
Ianfu.
타락한 여자들,
Comfort women.
내가 느끼는 것,
What we felt.
내 가슴은 지금도 떨리고 있고,
My chest still trembles.
빼앗긴 것,
What got taken.
봄,
The springtime.
내 삶.
My life.
우리는 지금
What we are.
74세,
74.
79세,
79.
83세,
84.
94세,
93.
눈멀고
Blind.
느리지만
Slow.
준비되어 있다.
Ready.
매주 수요일 일본 대사관 앞에서 더 이상 두려워하지 않며
Outside the Japanese embassy every Wednesday, no longer afraid.
우리가 원하는 것,
What we want.
지금 당장
Now.
soon.
우리의 이야기가 이 세상을 떠나기 전에
Before we're gone and our stories leave this world, leave our heads.
일본 정부여
Japanese government,
말하라 제발.
say it please.
위안부 여성들에게 미안하다고
We are sorry, comfort women.
나에게 말하라.
Say it to me.
나에게 미안하다고
We
말하라.
are sorry to me.
나에게 미안하다고
We are
말하라.
sorry to me.
나에게
To me.
나에게
To me.
나에게
To me.
말하라.
Say it.
미안하다고
Say
말하라.
sorry.
미안하다고 우리에게 말하라.
Are sorry.
말해라. 말하라.
See.
우리에게
Say
말해라.
sorry.
미안하다고.
She opened up a counselling clinic, just a regular counselling clinic. And when the very first woman that came into that counselling clinic shocked her, because this woman that came in, her face had been burned, and had been burned by her own husband. And Lee was totally shocked. She didn't ever think that this kind of thing happened, and not here in Korea, her home. She didn't want to send this woman back to her husband. She didn't want to send this woman and her children back to this man. And so she thought, what can I do? There was no shelters at the time. So she borrowed money and she got this woman and her children into a 3-bedroom apartment. But it didn't stop there. In her counselling clinic, more women kept coming to her who had been abused by their husbands. And so against lack of funding, lack of food, no place to shelter them, even against residents, neighbouring residents who didn't want these women there because they felt that these women were disobedient to their husbands. They should just go back home. And therefore they deserved every beating that they ever had. She carried on. And today now, there is 2 main shelters. There's the Yansan shelter. It is divided into 2 sections. There's the domestic violence section for women and their children. And there's also the sexual violence section for young women who've been sexually abused by their fathers. There's also the Gojo shelter as well, which is the long-term shelter for domestic violence victims. And then there's 26 family group homes. All these women are provided with individual and group counselling, training and assistance for job placements, medical and legal support. And these shelters and these group homes are funded by private donors, fundraisers, and they have some assistance by local government, but it's not much. Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit now about domestic violence in Korea. And I bring this up because when I first came to Korea back in September, I walked around and I saw these happy families, and we know that Korea is very much into their families. It's a lot stronger than what it is like, at least back home for me. In 2007, the United Nations did a report about domestic violence here in Korea, and it reported that 1 in 6 married households in Korea experience physical violence. So that's 1 in 6 families. In 1997, Korea brought out 2 laws, the Punishment Act and the Protection Act, and that was to unite the government, the police, the courts, shelters, counsellors, in order to protect these women. But there's still some problems. One thing that Lee raised with us, and also Kim Eun-hye, who's the director, they talked about how there's still a bit of a problem with the police in dealing with these men because it's a bit of a men's club. So there's something I really wanted to share from this report. It said the most frequently reported problem was police negligence. Because of the sexist views of the police in the early stages of these acts, the police often arrived on the scene and left saying family problems should be left to the family. The second problem was that the police took the offender to the police station but later released him. The third problem was instead of helping the victim, the police humiliated and intimidated her. One situation entailed a son who went to the police to report his mother having severely beaten by his father, who injured her pancreas. He had to leave the police station having been reprimanded by the police who said no good son would report his own father. This is back in 2007. Okay, just another short story here. Now this here is the late actress Cha Jin-sil. Now she was, before she passed away, an actress here in Korea and a model. She was sued for compensation by a construction company here in Korea that she represented as a model because she disclosed to the public her bruised and swollen face caused by her then husband. The High Court ruled in favour of her, and back in 2009, so not that long ago, June 4th, 2009, the Supreme Court of Korea overturned that ruling, favouring the construction company instead. So she was sued because she dared to show her bruises from her husband. Okay, I'm going to take it back now to the shelter and to the women that we're helping out tonight. As of this year, the government has instituted a new law, and she's going to pick this year, which means that 90% of the women are not eligible for welfare. So 90% of these women who come into the shelter, who leave behind their homes, who have nothing, are now no longer entitled to welfare money. So they have no money for food and for clothing. This is because their names are on home ownership with their husbands. So I'm just going to finish now. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming tonight. I want to thank you for your donations and helping these women. I'm thanking you also on behalf of the Women's Shelter. These women, they need help. We can't fight the government. I mean, when I hear these stories and I wish that I could get the government to support these women more, we can't do that. But what we are doing is we're giving these women a little bit of hope that they can survive a life without living in domestic violence. If you would like any more information about the Women's Shelter, if you want to donate clothing or you want to help, we have English teachers who come and regularly volunteer to some of the children. Please come and see me, or you can go into the Asset Busan volunteer page. Sorry, which is the next slide? Yeah, okay. And lastly, I do want to thank the girls in the Vagina Monologues, an amazing job that they've done. And also we have here tonight just some of the women from the shelter. They're in the 4th and 5th row with myself, who have come out tonight. We thank them for the dedicated work that they do every day with these women and their children. Thank you.
Is angry. It is. It's pissed off. My vagina's furious, and it needs to talk. It needs to talk about all this shit. It needs to talk to you. I mean, what's the deal? An army of people out there thinking up ways to torture my poor ass, gentle, loving vagina, spending their days constructing psycho products and nasty ideas to undermine my pussy. Vagina motherfuckers. All this shit they're constantly trying to shove up us, clean us up, stuff up us, make it go away. Well, my vagina's not going away. It's pissed off and it's staying right here. Like tampons. What the hell is that? A dry wad of fucking cotton shoved up there. Why can't they find a way to subtly lubricate the tampon? As soon as my vagina sees it, it goes into shock. Says forget it, closes up. You know, you've got to work with the vagina. Seduce the vagina. Introduce it to things. Prepare the way. That's what foreplay is all about. You've got to convince my vagina, like engage my vagina's trust. You can't do that with a dry wad of fucking cotton. Stop shoving things up me. Stop shoving and stop trying to clean it up. My vagina doesn't need to be cleaned up. It smells good already. Don't try to decorate. Do not believe him when he tells you it smells like rose petals when it's supposed to smell like pussy. That's what they're trying to do. Trying to clean it up, make it smell like bathroom spray or a garden. All those douche sprays, berry, floral, rain. I don't want my pussy to smell like rain, like washing a fish after you cooked it. Thank you. I want to taste the fish. That's why I ordered it. Then there's those exams. Who thought them up? There's gotta be a better way to do those exams. Like, why? The scary paper dress that scratches your tits when you lie down and crunches like a wad of paper someone threw away. Why the rubber gloves? Why the Nazi steel stirrups? Why the flashlight all up there like, Nancy Drew working against gravity? Why the mean, cold duck lips? My vagina's angry about those visits. It gets defensive weeks in advance. It won't go out of the house. And then you get there. Don't you just love that? Scoot down, relax your vagina. Why? So you can shove mean cold duck lips inside of it? I don't think so. You know, why can't they find some nice, delicious purple velvet, wrap it around me, lay me down on some feathery cotton spread, put on some nice, friendly pink or blue gloves, rest my feet in some fur-covered stirrups, warm up the duck lips, work with my vagina, but no, more tortures. Dry wad of fucking cotton, cold mean duck lips, thong underwear. That's the worst. Who thought of that? Thong underwear. Moves around all the time, gets stuck in the back of your crusty butt. Maybe your crusty butt, I don't have a crusty butt. You know, vaginas are supposed to be loose. And wide, not held together. That's why girdles are so bad. Vaginas need room to move and spread and talk and talk. Vaginas need comfort. Make something like that, something to give them pleasure. No, of course they wouldn't do that. Hate to see a woman having sexual pleasure. You know, make a nice cotton pair of panties with a French tickler built inside. Women would be coming all day long. Coming in the supermarket, coming in the subway, coming happy vaginas. They wouldn't be able to stand it, seeing all those energized, not taking shit, hot, happy vaginas. If my vagina could talk, it would talk about itself like me. Talk about other vaginas. It would do vagina impressions. Lucille Ball. She's a redhead. My vagina would wear Harry Winston diamonds. No clothing, just there, all draped in diamonds. My helped release a giant baby. I thought it would be doing more of that. It's not. Now, it wants to travel, doesn't want a lot of company, wants to read and know things and get out more, it wants sex, it loves sex. It wants to go deeper. It's hungry for depth, it wants kindness, it wants change, it wants silence and freedom and gentle kisses and warm liquids and deep touch. It wants chocolate. It wants to scream. It wants to stop being angry. It wants to come. It wants to want. It wants my vagina. My vagina. Well, it wants everything.